Tonight's video, I'm going to look at installing a Savox servo into this car that I've had. Of course, it's modded out pretty heavy. It's twice as heavy as it was when I started. It's got brass hexes, C-hubs, and diff cover along with the three-piece aluminum wheels. And I've already burned up one motor, so I've got a barrage motor in it. The barrage motor is awesome. Now, I've burned up this little servo here underneath the this part here that does the steering, for those of you who are new, and I toasted it. Anyway, I'm going to figure out how to put a slightly larger servo into that space. Hopefully it can work. I've heard I got to do a little cutting. I'm okay with that. I just need to make sure that this actually fits before I do anything permanent. Alright, I figured out the best way to get access to this is just to remove the top shock mounts from the suspension. So those have been disconnected and pulled away, and then I've got plenty of space to work there. It looks like I've got a little bit of extra space between the edges here of both of these, and actually between the screw holes and the bracket and the motor. And I think if I clearance that and then bring these screw holes in, I'm going to hog these out and move this hole in as far as I can get it on both sides, and then trim the edges here off. I think I can get it to be the same width as the stock servo, but you notice the body of this case is much thicker than the one it comes with. It's also quite a bit stronger from what I hear, hoping anyway. And I'm gonna get a Dremel tool out and bring those holes in a little bit to match the mount points here and here. Before I really tear into it, I'm going to make note that this steering tie rod basically lines up at the midpoint of the front here when it's in the center. So I'm going to make sure that I get this spaced properly when I get it put back together. I don't know if I'm going to have to add spacers or not to adjust the servo around, but I just wanted to make a note of where that was. Kind of runs right through the middle of it. Alright, another thing I'm going to have to consider is when I install the new servo, it is, like I said, a little bit larger than the old one, and you can see that it's going to stick back much farther than the stock one. It's just a larger servo altogether. What I'm probably going to have to do is just Dremel off this back part of the let me zoom in a little bit. See the back part where the servo holder? I don't know, this part I think is unnecessary. I'll have to just cut this out and remove that plastic so that the new servo can extend past the end and not stop here, because if I left this, the front of the servo would be probably, the body of it would be out to here, and that would be worthless because it would be so far forward it wouldn't be usable. So I'm probably gonna have to space this back a bit. We'll see. I'm okay cutting it up, because if I need to, I can always order something new and hope for the best that way, but we will have to clearance the back of that. Next part, I'm just going to take the old servo out. I'll disconnect the front here, this part, and these two screws, and it should lift right out. Well, here you can see the size difference between these two servos. The one I'm putting in is quite a bit larger. Same deal as the barrage motor. It was large as well. I need to find out if this fits into the side brackets of the original servo mount. You see how we're going to have to cut the back of that out to fit it. I'm going to have to work on details after that just to find out. Another thing I'm going to have to do is probably shorten this cord, because this cord here is rather long compared to the one that comes with the car. That's not a big deal. One last look at the servo tray before I cut it. I'm going to cut this section off here so that the new servo can extend past that point, and it does fit. It goes in really tight, but it's exactly the size it needs to be to fit in that space. It just won't fit in there with the backing plate because it can't rust back in far enough to work out properly. I'll also have to align the screw holes so that they work, and I think I can do that. So if not, I've chewed up a $27.99 servo. Here goes nothing. Okay, you know, when you start doing stuff that was never intended, you run into problems you never foresaw. Well, that's kind of what's happening now. And the problem that I have is I cut the back of the servo bracket off. Did kind of a hack job on it, but it's fine. The problem is it's the suspension. Let me zoom in on that. Sits a little bit higher. You can see it right there in the middle. Sits a little bit higher than the bottom of the tray, so that's tipping the servo forward. What I'm going to do is I'll just put some 3M sticky tape on that just to raise the servo up so that the back side of it clears that joint once it's put back together. You can see that in the middle there, that ball joint from the A-arm is kind of in the way. I'll show you that in a second. This is the 3M tape I'm using. I've already put one layer down on top of that. I'm going to stick one more down, and that should build it up enough to clear that pivot ball in the back. Next thing I'm going to do is shorten the outer dimensions, top and bottom here, so that they're the same as the old one. I don't want it wider because it still has to fit between the frame rails on this for proper articulation. It's turning into a little bit of a goat rope, but I think it'll be cool when it's done. I'm not sure if this is the correct servo to be using either. This isn't the one that people showed me, but it's the one they had at my store, so I'm going to try it. I also am going to have to use the servo horn that came with it, and it's not going to have a servo saver, but I don't know that I need it. With a car this light, I'm sure it was intended to be able to drag something much heavier than this. So like a 10 scale crawler, it's just not going to have a servo saver anymore. Hopefully it'll have enough torque to be able to fully articulate right and left. I do have some of the Emax servos on the way, and who knows when they get here. It said it could be as late as December 31st, so I'd like to drive this car tonight, so I'm going to keep moving on. I'm going to take this outside, do a little bit of grinding, cutting, and see if I can't get the mounting holes to line up properly. I'd like to use the same screw holes as the original, but now I've just lifted the entire deck of that with the spacing, and I'm going to have to drill new holes in this to get them to line up properly. Not a problem. Alright, servo's hooked up and working. I'll have to line that up before I screw that on permanently, just to make sure that I have enough steering to have that centered and full authority in both directions. Once I get it hooked up and right, I will of course reduce the length of that wire. It's ridiculous. Voiding warranties today. That's what we're doing. Alright, so you know how when you start doing things that were never intended, how you run into problems you could have never foreseen? Well, this is one of those. The plug right there that goes into the receiver and ESC combo hits the servo and it won't compress. I think I'm just going to detach this, spin it around 180, and this will then come out the back. Switches will be on this side instead of this side, and I don't see why that'd be a problem. Just one more thing to do. Okay, situation report. Some things have happened since the last video, last clip. I took the front bumper off to get some clearance. I now have the white steering arm on there. I'm going to probably have to shave the top of that off. And I ended up using an aluminum rear mount that I had on the front, because in the process of shaving it, I kind of messed it up and destroyed it. But what it does do is, without the stock body mount present that is over here, you see all that plastic, it's not here on this side, and that provides really nice clearance for the cord coming out of the side of my servo. So I had to drill a couple holes in the frame to mount it, but that's not a big deal. I have a drill press and got a little dust on it still, but that's okay. It does have a 3-position, 3 holes. I can make the shot go higher or lower. I may end up doing the same thing on the other side, just so that the shocks are balanced. And I'm not going to do it tonight though, but it works out pretty good. It's got a little lean. I might drop it to the highest one. It looks, oh, it's sitting on a thing. There we go. It is balanced. Just need to put the bumper back on, clip the top of that, shorten the wires, and I believe this is a 12 kilogram micro server, and that's only 3 kilograms less that comes on a stock Red Cat Gen 7. So this thing is going to have enough torque to turn itself around on the front tires. I don't think torque will ever be an issue for it again, so should be great. I'm going to test it out and see how it goes. It's getting pretty late here. People in my family are not going to be happy with me being up, so I'll just finish tidying this up, give it a run, see what we got. And one last piece of fun for tonight. I could put the front bumper on, but I don't think we're going to yet. The reason is these wires are not going to be long enough to reach to the back of the servo anymore. Since we the receiver, since I flipped it around to gain clearance for the servo, the wires just aren't going to reach to the back of the receiver anymore. So I'm just not going to put it on. I don't think it'll matter. If anything, it'll give me a little bit better approach angle. So I'll drive it without it for a while. I'm not using lights anyway, because they just kill your battery faster. But I will extend these, and once the wire's long enough to reach the back, I'll put it back on. But that's a project for another day. I need to have a little fun with this thing and then go to bed. Thanks for watching.